Cowboys fans? Welcome into How About Wow. What I'm noticing in this news cycle, all the offseason moves are just about over. The Cowboys are ranked mid or bottom third in just about everything. Is this Cowboys hate or a reality check for anybody flirting with the idea of dreaming big in 2025? Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about this Cowboys?
Yeah, buddy, I'm Gavin Dawson from 105.3 The Fans, Gag Nation, 2 to 7 every weekday on your home of the Cowboys, joined as always by all-academic SEC offensive lineman Newbear Lesniewski. How the hell are you, buddy?
Man, I gotta be honest. We might have to make it mandatory the Sean Lee jersey because from one general to another kind of thing. You know, I mean, I've been playing around with the graphic tees, sarcastic comment loading, what have you. We're gonna have to set some rules here, I think.
I really like the Sean Lee stuff. You know, I was the general first. Sean Lee came shortly after I took that. So, I mean, no hard feelings, anything like that. But yeah.
How long could you last in a cage match with Sean Lee?
4 seconds, if that. I like the parallel there between his greatness and mine, to be honest with you, Newbear. How about Harbor Lightning? And the injuries as well. I think I might actually be more injured than Sean Lee. Harbor Lighting, the specialty lighting design and installation team of DFW, Harbor Lights with you. Go to harborenterprisesllc.com. They have a Christmas in July special coming up. You can book your Christmas lights already, or permanent lighting for small businesses and residences. Okay, these stories, Newbear, I'm really interested to see how you are going to react. You know me, I can be cynical. I can be tough about this team's Cowboys chances, and while I'm getting excited about the offense, it's hard to really, see them as true contenders right now. If you're trying to be bullish, these are some potentially sobering ideas. We start with the offense. Warren Sharp ranking the best offensive line. Here are the Cowboys 16th. If the offense is going to be a strength, you know how I feel about Dak. I think if you protect him and give him weapons, he can win the MVP and take you to a Super Bowl. I think they need a better offensive line than that, Newbear. What do you think?
When you brought this up as a topic, we started unpacking it, and I said, well, weren't they generally considered to be pretty ass last year, like into the 20s? And even in some cases, they were one of the worst units collectively. And some of the individual players in particular were some of the graded as some of the worst in the league. So in theory, the first response is, 16, middle of the pack, that's a huge improvement. But then we remember when we started unpacking it, that PFF actually had them top 5 pass block win rate. Some of these guys had individual performances that were stellar. I mean, Pete Prisco over at CBS Sports has Tyler Smith in his top 100 players in the whole damn league coming into this year. And on top of that, you got the number 12 pick in the draft joining them. You got 3 first-round picks in a row. You got Guyton on the no longer calling it the Jared from Subway diet for other reasons. Looks like he's trending up, and if he isn't the guy, Richards is pushing him in camp. There's a legit battle at left tackle where we're now talking about depth. My big thing when you come back to unpacking this is all the changes in the offseason for all these teams that were, especially the Bears, all the people that are just pushing them to the top of everything. They still have to go out there and do it, and not just any one guy. Particularly the offensive line, perhaps more than anyone, is a unit that has to come together and gel as 5 guys. It's the unit where if one guy makes a mistake, you're really fucked, because on defense, if Easy is making rookie mistakes, Micah can clean up for him, and others like Fowler and Solly can get home in the middle, right? And when Overshown gets back, he can make up for a mistake that someone might make in front of him with his speed and his instincts. If your left guard is getting shoved into Dak's lap, the play's over. You did that with the interceptions just a couple episodes ago.
This offensive line has so many questions around it that could get good answers to. Like, how much better is Beebe going to be year 2 as a center? How is Guyton going to be a train wreck out there with the penalties? 18 penalties in 13 games. Horrible against the run. Like, just not athletic enough to get out there in space and try to go head hunting for anybody to block. I mean, easy pickings shedding a Tyler Guyton block. And then to go along with the penalties, when he's just in pass protection, he's actually not getting murdered. In year 2, as he's finally taken his diet and work professionally, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, a bit of a step up would be better. Can you not get murdered from or murder other people to make the ref throw the hanky? But like what we're talking
he
about,
had one game with 4 flags, bro.
what we're talking about here is competition. What we're talking about here is the fight for depth and the fight for those top 5 guys. And what I see when you look at this list is you look at every single team and there's something that has changed. You have like Frank Ragnow's gone, right? I mean, Kelsey leaving Philly changed some things, but you had somebody ready to step in and step up and be the guy after him. When you talk about bringing in free agents, no matter how much you sign them for, no matter how many All Pros, Pro Bowls, games in a row started, pancake blocks, they haven't done it in this city next to the guy that they're playing next to yet. And so when you look at Chicago, you're still going to see Caleb Williams running himself into trouble, holding the ball and getting himself into trouble. Joe Thuney doesn't have shit to do with that. What's going to be fascinating to see about this team with these guys collectively is the identity and whether or not it's forged because of them or in spite of them.
Yeah, I think you could get great answers to these questions. I think Terrence Steele's a better right tackle than Cowboys Nation wants to give him credit for. Tyler Smith, you mentioned him; he's great at left tackle. You know, I think if Booker doesn't have rookie struggles like the way that he played at Alabama, he didn't let sacks and he didn't commit penalties. You know, for 4 years or 3 years, however long he was there, he was Mr. Consistent. You played offensive line in the SEC. You're a huge NFL media member. What do you think, Newbear? Like making this jump? Is it realistic to even consider he could possibly have a Zach Martin-like transition to the pros?
Well, 2 things we know about Booker is that he's going to know what to do and he's going to be in shape. You see him shoving kids into the dirt at camp. That
he can move.
He's running down high school wide receivers, and when they're going to get him by a hair at the line, giving him a little shit. Like, this dude is ready to work. And that was the problem with Guyton last year. Is we've talked about the steep learning curve, basically eating his way into an offensive lineman, which is something that Oklahoma is pretty famous for. They got a pretty damn good track record of it. But then you also take this guy and flip him to the other side, where he's literally using his body the other way. Pittsburgh Steelers are the same thing with Broderick Jones out of Georgia, who was a much higher graded player. He's really struggled in Pittsburgh going from left to right. This year he goes back to left. And you see this stuff happen all the time. And it's one of the things that makes me the most bonkers about these NFL guys. They're getting paid all this money and they're asking guys to do things they're not physically capable of doing or that they mentally don't know what to do yet. And then, oh, by the way, you add to that, you're not in shape. Good luck, buddy.
All right, good stuff, Newbear. Up next on How About Wow? We go to defensive line, your Steelers, number 1. I guess, are they your Steelers now? It's weird because when I first met you 25 years ago, you were a Bears fan, a Bears super fan, and now you're living in Pittsburgh for so long, I think you might have picked up a Steelers thing. But they have the Cowboys defensive line down here at 12, Newbear, and, you know, a little bit better than offensive line, I guess. And I think they've invested in it a way, both in the draft and free agency, that should give you confidence. But with Osa and Micah, I think this is a mistake by Pro Football Focus. I don't know how you're anything less than a top 10 offensive lineman with those 2 guys. And then you look at, you know, the points of pressure they're going to be able to bring and wreak havoc. This should be one of the most feared group of pass rushers in the entire league.
Well, and one of the big things here is we're discounting too how disruptive someone like Overshown is when he comes back around the holidays. We're discounting here how less steep a learning curve is for someone like Easy because he's got Fowler and Micah in front of him, not only showing him the way, but forcing him to not have to step in and play every down. So when you look at the pieces that they have, and you got vets to show the young kids the way, you have depth. The only real question is, when does Micah sign? When does Overshown come back? What does this front really look like? What is that rotation and who are these guys? The reason the Steelers are number 1 is because they go draft a kid like Herbig. They sign a guy like Highsmith and extend him. They go back to Watt. They put all these guys on the table because they know exactly what they're going to get. And they're also drafting the next guy, maybe even a year or 2 ahead of time, so that if the Watt thing hadn't worked out or if they had to move on from him, they would have felt pretty damn good about it. This is the first time in a minute where when you're looking at the Cowboys up front, you're looking at the way this thing projects, what Eberflus is talking about wanting to do, right? Our preparation will be our separation. Go get your asses in shape so that we can have eyes on the ball and we can go hunt. There is a lot of disruptive force up front.
There is a lot, you know, and I guess it's going to come down to how much the other team can and wants to run against you, how effectively they are. Up next, let me put this final piece together for you, Newbear, and then I'll give you a chance to react to it all as a whole. And you just tell me, is it too much to really imagine this personnel getting over the top? Up next on How About Wow? Yeah, the punishing headlines continue. Pro Football Focus at linebacker, and this one is the worst, bro. I'm going to have to come over here to the side panel and scroll all the way to the bottom quickly where you'll find the Cowboys linebackers 27. You mentioned Overshone. He's hurt. He's clearly the best one. I think they should bring back Eric Kendricks. We talked about that. Damone Clark is a bust. This is a special teams depth linebacker. Maris Leofau, hopeful he can have like an Anthony Hitchens type of career at this point. Murray and Sanborn, I think you're going budget once again. And, I think they're high effort players. They're leadership type of players, but there's a reason they were available. And I just think, this group right here might be the biggest shortcoming. So you have linebackers at 27, offensive line at 16. Maybe your strongest group is wide receivers, and I think that should be in the top 10, maybe top 5, just because of Lamb and Pickens. But where are your other strengths that you can really start to build, winning momentum with?
Yeah, this is the one where when you look at it, you go, oh, okay, so this guy's a traits guy, but he misses tackles. This guy's got all the stuff. He's injured, and he's been injured. This guy doesn't have any of this stuff, but he's a try-hard guy. Where he's going to – like, none of these guys has all the pieces at all levels. The one thing that is interesting, speaking of levels, and the reason I framed it up that way is because it makes me think about the role Mike is going to play. And it makes me think about 4-3, 3-4, and some of the different things they're going to do, because this edge conversation drives me nuts. It literally – TJ Watt is considered an outside linebacker, but of late, he's going to be over the right tackle. He's going to go hunt the quarterback almost 100 out of 100 times. If Micah's really moving around, I wonder if some of this stuff is mitigated to the point of where we talk about the General Sean Lee, your favorite jersey, and how he shifted positions over his career. Like when you look at the success that Eberflus had when he was here before, it was slotting and re-slotting guys, not just based on their ability, but based on the ability of the guys around them. And so I wonder how this takes shape. If Overshone comes back and we see him around the holidays and he's buzzing around and he's really good to go, this is a different unit. How do you get to that point? And the answer to that question might be Micah Parsons.
Hey, I was just about to go there, bro. A linebacker in college, injury to tank his rookie year. Let's see if Micah can rush the passer. Look at this. He can. And a position change and a star is born. I was never that impressed with the stand-up linebacker reps that I saw from Micah Parsons, but I guarantee he could be much better than Sanborn and Murray. What's it going to take? Is this Ezeraku exploding? Is this Dante Fowler having his best year as a pro? Peyton Turner, Solomon Thomas pitching in reps? But like, how much are you open-minded to taking Micah off the edge and trying to reinforce your linebacker room, especially in, obvious running situations?
Yeah, and I think some of this is one of the defensive versions of the conversation of week to week personnel groupings. What is the offense going to be? And they're talking about being multiple. This might be one of those things where you see when we play Mahomes or when we play Hurts, you might see that look a little bit, because let's be honest, you got to play Jaden Daniels a certain way. At the same time, do you owe Caleb Williams that much respect? You certainly don't owe it to Jared Goff. And if you play all those teams from week to Geno Smith, if you're coming out here playing these guys the same way week in and week out, you're asking to get spanked. And so maybe it's not a permanent thing, but maybe it is. And I'm not advocating for Micah all of a sudden playing, 50, 75% off the ball. But what I am saying is when you talk about sub and when you talk about the different things they're going to be able to do potentially if the cornerback room is healthy, and like we've talked about previously with Hooker and Wilson and some of these hard-hitting safeties being able to screw into the box, I think the more multiple you can be, the more diverse you can be from week to week. And Micah Parsons proving that he's done that before, wanting to do it again, and that being the reason that you're going to pay this guy, turn him loose at every level of the defense.
Your level of optimism is epic, my man. But after listening to these last three position rankings as a totality, the running back room, bro, the running back room's the worst. Where would you put the corner room right now? That's got to be bottom third.
Yeah, no more signing and the injuries, because there's a chance that we're going into week one and you're talking about Ravel not being ready, Diggs not being ready. Forget Bland being in this. You're talking about Kaiir Elam being cornerback week one. Bland is not playing nickel. He's cornerback two. Who the hell is playing nickel now? You're talking about potentially having to overpay now to go get Mike Hilton. You're talking about having to overpay to bring Gilly-Lock in. You're maybe even making a trade for not a developmental guy, but a younger guy who's maybe buried on a bench, in a Cooper DeJean type of situation, because people forget that, he wasn't the guy from week one. That was much later in the season when he came in and transformed that defense. And when you look around the league and we start earmarking those guys, that might be a fun exercise for another show, pending some of these reports that we get coming out of camp.
You can nail a rookie class. This front office has been great. These scouts have nailed it in the past. They've coming off a couple of tough drafts, but look at just what the Eagles did with DeJean and the corner, Williams, the late first-round corner, Quinnen. So, I mean, they went from, hey, we got questions in our secondary to amazing defense. So maybe we'll do a video about this week. I think it starts with nailing the draft class this year, and then Gilmore, Hilton, or Fuller, something. We need a combination. Is it 2 corners? And then, obviously one of these veteran running backs to hit as well.
We are going to do another show where we talk about, what they still need to do heading into week one. I mean, there's more work to do, especially
Absolutely.
because of what Jerry Jones said he was going to do. Right. And so you talk about me being optimistic.
I think that ship has sailed, according to my sources.
Part of the reason I'm optimistic is because when I look at the names that are out there and I look at their ages in particular, and I look at the opportunity and what it's going to be, particularly when we start seeing some of these injury reports, if you're Jerry Jones, why would you wait to try to go sign Hilton or Gilly-Lock until after they know Diggs is out or Ravel can't play? Why wouldn't you try to lock some of that shit up now so that you can let those guys get really healthy and then play the way you want to play, dictate terms to your depth chart the same way we're talking about dictating terms to the other team of personnel?
We are now under 10 weeks until Cowboys-Eagles, NFL Week 1. Great job as always, Newbear. Back into hibernation you go as training camp approaches. We'll be back tomorrow with more Cowboys Glory Days Gold. Read our stuff and get all of our socials at howboutwow.com.